guys? The Bench Buddies are back with another video, our first of multiple March Madness videos for you guys this week. But before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Get us to 100 subscribers. We'll be doing a giveaway for an autographed item, so you wouldn't want to miss out on that. But it's March. We're finally here. We got the bracket revealed, and we're going to briefly talk about it here before we do a deep dive into it. Ty, is there anything you want to add before we get started here?
Let's get right into it. I'm just excited for March.
All right, let's do it. Here we got the first four out: Dayton, Oklahoma, SMU, and Texas A&M. And I think all four of these teams have a better case than a few teams, in my opinion, that have made the tournament. Texas A&M, we saw them have that magical run in the SEC tournament to even get them in the conversation, but they just came up short as they fell to Tennessee. And, that automatic qualifier obviously would have put them in. I was liking Oklahoma, but I think those early losses in the year hurt them coming in. But Ty, you want to talk about Dayton and SMU?
Yeah, SMU definitely has a better argument out of those two teams. Dayton was just banking on the win over Kansas, and then obviously their bubble burst yesterday. But SMU beat Houston. They beat Memphis twice, so they really had an argument. Plus, they were 23-8, pretty solid record. But obviously, it just wasn't quite good enough. I think they could have got in over Wyoming along with Texas A&M, but it didn't happen for them. So now it's on the NIT.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, even if Dayton and SMU win yesterday, to get them to the championships, I think they both get in, just because that one extra win would be, huge compared to, Wyoming, where they lost early, and an extra win is better for them. So I think that's why they came up short. For the last four in, though, we have Indiana, Notre Dame, Rutgers, and Wyoming. And I think the biggest surprise here are the two Big Ten teams. Not the two teams that I was thinking that would be in the last four in. For the Big Ten, I thought Indiana and Rutgers were both for locks of, 10, 11 seeds guaranteed. But that changed. A lot of different, bracketology videos had different teams everywhere, but it ended up this way. And, they all still got in, but they just have an extra game to get really into the tournament. But I think the team here that everyone's overlooking would be that Wyoming team we did mention. They were pretty good this year. Solid in the Mountain West, just squeaked in as they were the last team in, but they definitely could give, if they win this game, they definitely could give anyone a run for their money.
I'm just really surprised Indiana's behind Michigan, even with all my bias. I mean, pretty similar resumes, and Indiana just beat Michigan, so I was really surprised that they were not only behind Michigan, but they were towards the bottom of the last four in. We know they were one of the last two in, because they're a seed lower. So that was surprising. I agree with Rutgers. A lot of people think they should be not in Dayton, but I actually agree with it. Their net ranking was like around 75 or something. So they should just be happy that they're even in the field. And then I think Wyoming is the team that a lot of people have issues with, but it is what it is.
Jumping to our first region, we have the West region, the number one overall seed, Gonzaga. All due respect to them, they deserve to be here at the number one. But looking at this bracket, there could be a lot of chalk. I don't really see too much, movement here, but obviously it's March. You never know what could happen. And I think a sleeper team that could run the table is Texas Tech. We saw them get hot again in the Big 12 tournament, just came up short against Kansas. But, with their defense and how they're playing with the first-year coach, they got a lot to prove this year. And I think they could, potentially give Gonzaga or Duke a run for their money for the bid here.
I think this goes up to the fourth seed, Arkansas, as teams that could actually win this region. And I would say Michigan State could make a run possibly to the Elite Eight. I could see them possibly getting through Duke. It is Tom Izzo, but obviously Gonzaga, the number one overall seed, it's theirs to lose here.
The biggest upset that I could see possible, or at least good matchup, is that 5 and 4 Vermont Catamounts versus Arkansas, and UConn versus New Mexico State. That's going to be, two games you'll want to keep an eye on if you're looking for an upset as well.
Alabama, that's one of the teams we haven't talked about yet. They're a team that could win 3 games, or they could get blown out in their first game. You never know with them. But I just think they match up very poorly with Texas Tech. So I like Texas Tech there. But Boise State, Memphis, they talked about it on CBS. That's supposed to be a crazy matchup because Boise State plays very slow, and obviously Memphis just plays like fire drill. basketball. So that'll be an interesting game. But yeah, this will be an interesting region.
Moving over to the South region, we have Arizona, and a lot of people so far have taken this Wildcat team to win it all. Andy Katz took them, and I'm sure some other analysts are with backing him. But hold your horses here. You got Villanova at the 2. You never want to play Villanova in March. You got Tennessee at the 3, the surprise team that really, came out of nowhere this year. I mean, they were projected this kind of around this line, but they really have lived up to it for once, and it feels like forever. And Illinois and Houston, the 4 and 5. I think any 5 of those teams can really win this region just because Illinois has the size with Kofi Coburn. It's always tough to match up with him. Houston, with the run they had last year, Kelvin Sampson, with him coaching, I could see them doing it again as well. And of course, we got to talk about our Wolverines. I'll talk about them first. Squeaking in the tournament. You and I thought they were a bubble team, first 4 at best, and somehow they survived it. And they're playing Colorado State, a very favorable matchup. So, you're going to see in the picks video, we're both going Michigan. So we'll talk about it here. We're rolling with Michigan, at least in the first round. But after that, it's a big question mark. But props to Michigan, Juwan Howard and the boys getting in.
Yeah, for sure. And bias aside on that one for the Michigan pick, actually Vegas favors Michigan. I don't know if I've ever seen an 11 seed as a favorite in the first round, so that's interesting. But I'll start. I think Villanova should be the 3 seed and Tennessee should be the 2 seed. If you just flip those teams, I think nobody would have a problem with that. I said this earlier today. I think either the selection show needs to be on Monday or no championship games should be played on Sunday, because it seems like that Tennessee win and then you'll see later the Iowa win really meant nothing because they both should be a seed higher at least. But that being said, I think this is one of the stronger regions. You have Illinois who could make a run. I just think we got to pump the brakes a little bit on Arizona. It's kind of like Illinois last year. They were the popular pick, and then obviously they lost in the second round. So you got to pump the brakes a little bit. They struggled through their conference tournament until they had the impressive win over UCLA. So them being the popular championship pick is great for them. I don't know. But I would watch out for Tennessee here, who's probably the hottest team in the country, at least one of them right now. So they're a scary team.
And on your Arizona, 8-9 matchup, we've seen TCU. They just beat Kansas a few weeks ago. TCU is a very scary team. You wouldn't want to match up. Seton Hall, they could, pull that upset as well. A very underrated team in the Big East that, didn't really make too much noise this year, but won the games they should have won, competitive in the other games. So that 8-9 should be a good matchup and a tough test for number 1 Arizona in the second round. In the Midwest, we have Kansas as the number 1 seed. And, lots of questions on the seeding so far. Kansas, at the 1, I think they deserved it after, Kentucky went down in the SEC tournament. And, looking at the 2 seed Auburn, I think that is, kind of a big question mark. We saw them kind of falter this last month or so. Wisconsin at the 3, getting upset in the first round of Michigan State. So this region is kind of, I would say, the most wide open region. And this was the one I would probably take to have the most upsets as well, just because, you have USC at 7, big fraud team. We see them get blown out all the time. Providence, my Friars, South Dakota State Jackrabbits, great offensive scoring team, and Providence struggles to keep up with teams like that. Richmond, the Spiders squeaking in. Iowa, they're a hot team, but Iowa these last few years in March have struggled. Auburn, who knows how they're going to play? They can struggle. So I think the popular pick here is just Kansas is going to run the table in this region. I really can't see them really faltering until at least the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I think this is definitely the weakest of the 4 regions. There's a lot of frauds or borderline frauds. Auburn and USC right there stand out to me as fraud teams. Wisconsin, obviously, they've had some good wins, but are they really that great? Like a team that could make the Final Four? I don't know. LSU just fired their coach. Providence, they've played a million 1 possession games this year. How good are they? So, and then again, obviously Iowa should be I think Iowa should be the 4 and Providence should be the 5, just like the last region. It's like they had the bracket set before Iowa beat Purdue. That's another story. But either way, I think this is a really weak region, and it works out well for Kansas. If you're a Kansas fan, I'd be really worried about Iowa, and I'd be worried about Auburn if they're on, but that seems to not usually happen lately.
And for the last region, we got the East region with Baylor at number 1. Lots of question marks at Baylor at 1 after they lost in the Big East tournament. But then again, all the 2 seeds, they lost in the tournament as well. So really, it was kind of just by luck that they got to stay there at number 1. But that number 2, Kentucky, is a very scary team. Wouldn't want to face them. You know, we've said all year, you know, Kentucky is a team that it seems like they haven't been there in a while. And this is the best team they've had. They could make a run at it. They could get out of this East region. And I think this is the hardest, essentially, in my opinion. I just think with Purdue at a 3, UCLA with their magical run, what they made last year, you know, they can do it in March. We've seen them do it. They can make a run. And I think St. Mary's at the 5 is very underrated. But if they get a tough matchup in Indiana, you know, they could get upset as well. But North Carolina at the 8 as well, something that's going to be overlooked. They got hot at the right time. They, you know, unfortunately lost to Virginia Tech, but they've been on a tear recently. So I definitely think it's not going to be Baylor just running the table here and blowing teams out. There's going to be lots of close games. Sweet 16 matchups are going to be very interesting. But for me, I think a big upset that you could see brewing is that 11-6 matchup in Virginia Tech and Texas. Virginia Tech played their way into the tournament. You know, if they win that, if they lose yesterday, more than likely they were out. But they won, got that win, and they get a very favorable matchup in Texas, who squeaked in, not even, I would say squeaked in, but really just kind of layup way into the tournament. You know, they've really faltered these last few months, just kind of fell off. And those early wins in the season really got them to where we are now. But you know, if Texas does win, more than likely they're going to have to face Purdue and probably get obliterated. Definitely a region that I would keep my eye on for possible upsets, but nothing like set in stone yet.
Yeah, I think this region is absolutely loaded on first look. Kentucky, Purdue, UCLA, 2 through 4 seeds, and then obviously Baylor. All 4 of those teams could win the whole thing, in my opinion. UCLA obviously has the experience from last year. They're starting to play really well. And then Purdue and Kentucky and Baylor have all been title contenders all year. So it's a really loaded region. Obviously, Texas was, I think, top 5 preseason. So they're another team to watch out for. North Carolina has been hot. And then obviously, like you said, Virginia Tech out of nowhere is one of the hottest teams in the country right now, just absolutely dog walking North Carolina and Duke back to back. So it's a very interesting region. And then also you have Indiana coming off their run in the Big Ten tournament. So I have no idea who I'm going to pick in this. I haven't picked it yet, but there's a lot of different ways you could go.
Mm-hmm. And I think something worth noting is I saw a graphic where no team has ever won the national title after losing their first conference tourney game, and Baylor, Texas, Illinois, Auburn, and Wisconsin all fit that bill. That's 2 teams here just in this region. And it seems like, obviously, it's never been done since conference tournaments were a thing. More than likely, you wouldn't want to take that team to win it all. I know that it could, you know, the curse could be broken or whatnot, but they have a 1 in 68 chance right now. And I'm not liking those odds, but definitely something to know. If you're really an analytics guy and you want to dive deep into it, that's something well worth noting. But that's going to be it for the video today. If you'd like to hit that like button, comment below what you guys are thinking. If you got any upsets brewing, or you know, you really want to let us know your opinion, let us know down below, and hit that subscribe button to get us 100 subscribers. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.
She never called back.